Druv sat in his small room, the soft morning sunlight filtering through the thin curtains and casting a warm glow over the scattered books and papers on his desk. His laptop hummed quietly in front of him, and the faint aroma of coffee lingered in the air. He leaned back in his chair, stretching his arms as his eyes scanned the screen. He had been spending the last few weeks exploring spirituality, philosophy, and social commentary videos online, trying to make sense of ideas that were often contradictory and confusing. Today, a particular video caught his attention, The Truth About OSHO's Teachings, Druv Rathi. The title alone piqued his curiosity, and he clicked on it without a second thought. The video opened with a calm, measured voice, explaining that Osho, also known as Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, was a spiritual leader whose teachings had both inspired and disturbed millions. As the video played, Druv listened intently, feeling a strange mix of skepticism and fascination. The screen displayed historical footage of Osho speaking in front of large crowds, interspersed with serene images of meditation, nature, and people engaging in different forms of spiritual practice. Druv leaned forward, resting his chin on his hand. He had heard about Osho before. Some people called him a revolutionary thinker, while others labeled him a fraud or a cult leader. Yet, despite all the controversy, there was something undeniably intriguing about his ideas. The narrator in the video explained that OSHO's teachings often challenged societal norms, questioned rigid religious beliefs, and encouraged individuals to discover their own path rather than blindly follow tradition. He emphasized the importance of meditation, self-awareness, and living fully in the present moment, the video said, showing clips of people meditating in silence, laughing, or engaging in free expression. Druv opened his notebook and began jotting down notes. He wrote about the concept of Zorba the Buddha, a phrase Osho used to describe a person who could embrace both material enjoyment and spiritual depth. Druv found this idea fascinating. It was not about rejecting life or asceticism but finding a balance where one could celebrate the joys of the world while also nurturing inner growth. The video emphasized that OSHO's teachings were not meant to create followers but thinkers, people willing to question and experience life deeply. As he continued watching, the video addressed some of the criticisms surrounding Osho. Controversies related to his ashram, the accumulation of wealth, and clashes with authorities were mentioned carefully, with historical context and analysis rather than sensationalism. Druv appreciated this balanced approach. He had often noticed that videos online either glorified or demonized public figures without nuance. Here, however, there was an effort to present facts alongside interpretations, leaving room for the viewer to form their own opinion. One part of the video particularly caught his attention, OSHO's focus on individual freedom and responsibility. The narrator explained that many of OSHO's followers were drawn to his charisma, but the true essence of his teachings lay in personal exploration rather than obedience. Freedom is not chaos, the video said. It is understanding your own mind, observing your patterns, and choosing consciously how to live. Druv paused the video for a moment and reflected on this. He thought about how often society pressured people to follow predetermined paths, go to school, get a job, follow rules unquestioningly. OSHO's message seemed radical, yet refreshingly simple: think for yourself and embrace life fully, but responsibly. He jotted down more notes, feeling a surge of inspiration. Meditation, mindfulness, joy, responsibility, awareness, these were not just abstract concepts but practical tools for living better. The video included practical examples of meditation techniques, breathing exercises, and reflective practices. Druv decided he would try a few of them, curious to see whether they could help him feel more centered and aware in his own life. As the video progressed, it explored OSHO's views on love and relationships, a topic often misunderstood and sensationalized in popular media. The narrator explained that Osho encouraged honesty, authenticity, and emotional freedom, challenging traditional notions of possessiveness and control. Druv felt a subtle resonance with these ideas. They were not advocating recklessness but a deeper understanding of human connection, where love was a source of growth rather than limitation. He scribbled more notes, feeling as though a new perspective was slowly opening up before him. Druv paused again and took a deep breath, realizing how much he had absorbed already. He looked around his room, noticing how the sunlight now illuminated the colorful spines of books on philosophy, psychology, and spirituality. For weeks, he had been searching for clarity, reading countless articles, watching endless videos, and discussing ideas with friends. And yet, there was often a sense of incompleteness, a gap between knowledge and understanding. But now, as he watched this detailed analysis of OSHO's teachings, he felt something shift. It was not a sudden revelation but a gentle awakening, a sense that perhaps understanding comes not from idolizing a person but from engaging thoughtfully with ideas and questioning them critically. He unpaused the video, and the narrator spoke about the importance of observation over blind belief. Osho had repeatedly emphasized that spiritual truths could not be handed down, they had to be experienced. Druv felt the words settle in his mind. It reminded him of why he had started exploring philosophy in the first place, not to accumulate information, but to understand life more deeply, to live consciously, and to find a sense of purpose that resonated with his own experiences. By the time the video ended, Druv was filled with a mixture of clarity and curiosity. He closed his notebook, reviewing the notes he had taken. Each line reflected an idea that challenged conventional thinking while offering practical insight into living a conscious life. Druv leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful smile forming on his lips. "So, it's not about following blindly or judging superficially," he murmured to himself. "It's about understanding the essence behind the words and finding what works for me." He sat quietly for a few moments, letting the concept settle in his mind. The world outside continued its usual rhythm, cars passing by, birds chirping, and neighbors greeting each other. But inside Druv's room, a new sense of awareness had begun to emerge, a quiet, steady understanding that learning is an ongoing journey, and truth often lies in careful observation, critical thinking, and personal reflection. Finally, Druv stretched again and closed his laptop. He felt inspired, not just to explore more about OSHA, but to think deeply about all teachings and philosophies he encountered. He realized that the true lesson was not in the personality of a guru or the controversies surrounding them, but in the practice of questioning, reflecting, and experiencing life consciously. With a determined smile, he picked up his notebook and started writing down questions, ideas, and reflections, an outline for his own exploration and perhaps, one day, sharing his insights with others through his own videos. Druv walked slowly through a quiet park in the evening, the sky painted in shades of gold and purple as the sun began to set. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves above, and in the distance, the laughter of children playing reached his ears. Each step he took seemed to echo with thoughts from the video he had watched earlier, ideas that challenged the way he had seen life so far. He realized that he was thinking about his own life more deeply than he ever had before, and the small distractions of daily life felt less significant in comparison to the sense of awareness stirring within him. He sat down on a bench and closed his eyes for a moment. The lessons from the video replayed in his mind: meditation, freedom, love, living consciously. He felt that the real essence of Osho's teachings was not to idolize a person or blindly follow a philosophy, but to observe oneself, reflect critically, and experience life fully. Druv took a deep breath, letting it fill his lungs completely, and became aware of every sensation in his body, the heartbeat, the rhythm of his breath, the slight fatigue in his hands. It was as if these small details, often ignored, suddenly made the present moment tangible, alive. As he opened his eyes, he began reflecting on different aspects of his life. He realized how often he had allowed societal expectations to dictate his choices: school, college, career paths, relationships, all of these had created invisible boundaries for him. But now, after watching the video, he understood that true freedom was more than just doing whatever one pleased. Real freedom meant making conscious choices, being aware of one's mind, and taking responsibility for every decision. He rose and walked slowly along the shaded pathways of the park, observing the trees swaying gently, the sunlight filtering through the branches, and the calmness that seemed to surround everything. In his mind, Osho's words echoed: freedom is not just the right to do anything, it is also the responsibility to understand and own your actions. Druv realized how profoundly this applied to his own life. Every small decision, every choice he had made, some consciously, others unconsciously, was now illuminated in a new light. He understood that freedom without responsibility was meaningless, and responsibility without awareness was limiting. At the edge of the park, a child played joyfully with his mother, completely absorbed in the moment. Druv watched, and a smile formed on his face. The child's innocence, laughter, and lack of worry reminded him of what Osho often spoke about: the joy of being present, the bliss of living without fear, the simplicity of pure experience. It seemed so effortless, yet it was so rare in the lives of adults who carried past regrets, future anxieties, and endless distractions. Observing the child, Druv realized that this simple, unburdened happiness was something worth striving for, something attainable through mindfulness and self-awareness. He pulled out his notebook and began writing down his thoughts. He jotted notes about how he could bring more awareness into his daily life, how even small moments could be fully experienced, and how he could cultivate honesty and authenticity in his relationships. Writing felt like translating the abstract ideas from the video into practical steps for his life. He felt inspired, not by blind imitation, but by the possibility of applying these principles consciously and meaningfully. Time passed, and a sense of calm settled over him. Previously, Druv had often felt that understanding life or finding happiness was complicated and almost elusive. But now, he realized that by simply observing, reflecting, and living consciously, life could feel lighter, more vivid, and more connected. He started to see the world around him differently: the way the sunlight hit the park benches, the soft hum of distant traffic, the gentle sway of the trees, all seemed alive, significant, and interconnected with his inner awareness. Druv whispered to himself, maybe true spirituality is not about worshipping someone or following rigid rules. It's about observing, experiencing, and understanding the truth within myself. A subtle excitement rose within him because he realized that he didn't need external validation or permission to explore life in this way. The responsibility and freedom to shape his own journey lay entirely in his hands. As the sky darkened into deep shades of purple, Druv continued walking slowly through the park, thinking about how these insights could influence his future. He imagined integrating meditation into his daily routine, being more mindful of his thoughts and actions, and approaching relationships with empathy and honesty. He felt that this was not a theoretical idea anymore, but a personal roadmap for conscious living. He found another bench near a pond and sat down. The water reflected the fading light of the sky, creating patterns that seemed to shift and change with every ripple. Druv stared at the reflection and thought about how life itself was like that water, always moving, always changing, never static. Just like Osho had emphasized, it was not about clinging to rigid beliefs or seeking permanent answers, but about being fully present in the flow of life, observing without judgment, and learning from each moment. A soft breeze brushed his face, and he felt a strange sense of clarity wash over him. He realized that this awareness could help him handle challenges more gracefully, appreciate simple pleasures more deeply, and make choices that resonated with his own values rather than external pressures. He reflected on how often he had allowed fear, societal expectation, or habit to dictate his actions, and how liberating it felt to consciously question and choose differently. Finally, Druv stood up, feeling a sense of calm determination. He smiled, realizing that the journey toward conscious living was ongoing. It was not about perfection or immediate transformation, but about consistent reflection, awareness, and intentional action. He began planning how he could apply these insights in daily life and how he could share these lessons with others through his own observations and videos. As he walked out of the park and into the early night, Druv felt lighter, more centered, and inspired. The journey that had begun with curiosity in a simple video had transformed into a deeper understanding of himself and the world around him. He knew that true freedom, responsibility, and joy were not external things to be obtained but states of awareness to be cultivated. With each step, he embraced the process of conscious living, understanding that this was only the beginning of a lifelong journey of reflection, experience, and growth.